Hello, I'm Agatha Thrash, a staff physician from Uchee Pines Institute, which is a medical missionary training institute. And there we teach remedies, and my very favorite remedy is charcoal. It's such a favorite that my husband and I wrote a whole book devoted to that very subject of charcoal. So during the next half an hour we'll be discussing that, so if you'd like to stay by and join us, I think you'll enjoy learning about charcoal.
The following program presents principles designed to promote good health and is not intended to take the place of personalized professional care. The opinions and ideas expressed are those of the speaker. Viewers are encouraged to draw their own conclusions about the information presented. Welcome to Help Yourself to Health with Dr. Agatha Thrash of Uchee Pines Institute. And now, here's your host, Dr. Thrash.
Charcoal has so many good properties about it that you can use it for so many different things. You can use it internally, you can use it externally, you can use it in your rooms and in the air. It's a very good remedy. It's a very good substance for us to use in a lot of ways. And with me today is Don Miller, and a little later will be John Champion to help me to present the various qualities and faculties and our experiences with charcoal. And now Don Miller will talk with you about his experience with charcoal.
You know, one of my favorite things with charcoal, and you can use it in so many ways, we could not even enumerate them all in one program or 10 programs. But a number of years ago, after I'd learned about the wonderful miracle working properties, and I do use the word miracle because it does work miracles as far as I'm concerned, was when I'd gotten out of the Marine Corps and I moved to my farm in Missouri. And when I got there, I decided, I want to have some horses. Now, I wasn't familiar with buying horses. I didn't learn that in college, didn't learn that in the Marine Corps, but I did want to buy some horses. And so I had bought 3 horses. And I thought I had enough horses, but then I got a phone call one night from a man saying, look, I've got another horse I'd like to sell you. We had already bought 1 horse from this man, and he said, I want to sell you another horse. And I said, well, I really don't want any more horses. He said, well, I'll make you a good deal. I said, I don't care how good the deal is, I don't want your horse. He said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you the saddle and the bridle and the blanket and the horse, and I'll deliver it all for $25. And I said, sold. Well, I never heard that thing that you never buy a horse unseen. And so the man delivered the horse one day, and he backed up his trailer to my gate around my yard on my farm, and the horse was backing down this walkway, and it looked pretty good until he turned it around. And that was the worst looking horse I'd ever seen. One side of his face was nothing but pus. Pus, you couldn't see the eye, it looked miserable. And I thought, oh, I'm gonna have to dig a deep hole for this poor thing and bury it. And then I decided, well, no, I learned about charcoal. I'd been to Uchee Pines for a seminar, so I decided to use charcoal on my horse. I had to use it 2 ways. I was going to use it internally and externally. Now, how do you feed a horse charcoal? It was quite easy. I took a big stainless steel bowl, put some charcoal in it, put some flaxseed in it, ground flaxseed, which Brother Champion will be talking about, added some water, chopped up an apple, added some turbinado sugar, and I mixed it all up, and I roll it into these big black horse jelly beans, and the horse loved the things. Then I made up some charcoal poultice material, which Brother Champion will be talking about. Made up a big poultice and just slapped it on that horse's eye and tied it on with a sock. And I did that every day for that horse. And within a couple of months, that horse was completely clean, completely clear. Its eye was healed. It was not blind in the eye. It had no evidence whatsoever that anything had ever been wrong with that horse. And another nice thing was the horse surprised me. I don't even think I knew it was a female horse, but it was a female horse, and the horse had a baby horse, a foal, and it was in perfect health and perfect shape. So I just think that God has given us something like charcoal to surprise us with the marvelous working powers of it. And I'm thankful for charcoal. Dr. Thrash, I know you've had lots of experience with charcoal.
Yes, I have had quite a lot of experience with charcoal, and I enjoy what I know about charcoal, but I'm constantly learning more things. The charcoal itself is a little granule. The individual parts are just little granules like this, These individual granules are interesting because they have little crevices, which you can see here. You can see how these little holes and little canals and all of these little indentations around in the charcoal granule, all of these can take up poisonous substances, and indeed will take up poisonous substances, all manner of them. In fact, a number of articles have been written in medical journals, such as these that I'm holding here. This one was published in the very prestigious journal called Pediatrics just in 2001. Researchers had done a big experiment on many children, over 1,000 children who had gotten poisoned in the home. And what they had thought was, instead of having all children who were poisoned in the home transported to an emergency facility, why not have parents have charcoal in the home so that when a child is poisoned, they can simply administer it themselves. And so they began a campaign in this area in Connecticut and invited all parents to have charcoal in their homes in the medicine cabinet already. And so they found that in 60 minutes or less, they could have a poisoned child or a child who had taken something that you weren't certain was poisonous. They could have the child with their dose of charcoal already within 60 minutes or less. And that almost never happened in the hospital. It was less than a third of the cases that came to the hospital that were going to have the charcoal administered in 30 minutes or less. Whereas more than 90% of those who could get the charcoal administered in the home would have the charcoal in half an hour, in less than an hour. Now, concern over proper administration of the charcoal by parents was also very big in the minds of physicians. And I think generally we feel that parents are going to be maybe a little bit backward in being able to administer treatments in the home. But as we have had more and more experience in dealing with parents, we find that they are fully as capable as nurses and doctors to administer a simple treatment like charcoal in the home. So we recommend now to everybody that they have charcoal in their medicine cabinets at all times. When you have an emergency, that's not the time to try to call around and see where you can find it. Now, we speak of activated charcoal. Activated charcoal is different from just regular charcoal. Regular charcoal is something similar to what I have here. Here I have some partly ashed and partly charred wood that came from a fireplace. And you can use this in a pinch. Just take some of these dark pieces and crush them up with a hammer and a cloth towel, or crush them with a fork if they're soft enough, and you will get some benefit from that, but not a lot. What you get the most from is the activated charcoal. The activated charcoal has been specially processed in a factory where steam and pressure are used to clear the ash away from the little granules that with the little crevices, so the ash is cleared away. And the activated charcoal is at least twice, if not 3 times, as effective as the regular charcoal. So you can see that it's important for you to use that if you can. And as to how to administer it, we can teach a parent to give the child the charcoal by mouth in several ways. One way is to stir it up in a glass and put a straw in it and let them drink it. Now, some will say, well, my child won't drink that black mixture, and that may be true. And if you can't get the child to take the charcoal when it's mixed up in water, call grandmother, because grandmothers know how to get a child to take something that they don't want to take. And and in fact, that has been shown that in homes where there is a grandparent, there are fewer visits to physicians than in homes where there is no grandmother available. So you're very fortunate if you have a grandmother, and she can get the child to take the activated charcoal. And this can be a great help to you to know that in your very own home, you can be prepared to meet emergencies. Now, we use charcoal inside the body and outside the body, and John Champion, who is with me here, John Champion is a health educator at Uchee Pines and one of our instructors there, and he is going to tell you some about his experience in mixing up charcoal.
Charcoal is a very wonderful substance that has been provided for us, and you can get it all over the world. And today I'm going to show you a little bit about how we mix charcoal. Here we have two on our table. We have two glasses. This one, charcoal has already been mixed in, and this one I'm just about to mix the charcoal in. This one that has already been mixed in, it's now settling to the bottom. This is what we call our slurry water. That's for those who have difficulty taking the charcoal or think they might have difficulty taking. This will eventually settle out, precipitate out to the bottom, and it'll be relatively clear. Those who have difficulty might be more inclined to take it that way. Now, it's very interesting in mixing charcoal. It's a very fine powder, and if you don't watch it, it'll fly over everything and get into everything. It doesn't come out of garments very easily, so it needs to be mixed very, very gently. 1 table of charcoal per glass is about enough. That's the recommended dosage. Now this will take a little while to mix in, but when it mixes in, it can be taken with a straw or it can be drunk directly, and it works very, very quickly. There are no known problems with charcoal except that some people might find it a little bit constipating, and for those who might find that to be their case, what we advise then is that the person take a lot of water with it. Water and charcoal is all that is needed. Now, every medicine cabinet, as Dr. Thrash said, should have that. I keep this in my medicine cabinet. It's excellent for bad breath. It's excellent for gas. It's excellent for upset stomach. If a person has diarrhea, it helps quite a lot. It checks diarrhea very, very quickly. 1 tablespoon is all that is needed. We've done experiments, and we've had guests who have had gas or upset stomach, and we give them a little dose of charcoal like this, and it doesn't have any taste. It tends to be a little bit grainy, but that's all. There's nothing in here that can harm you. It goes through the system, and it binds the toxins, it binds those things that are in the system, and it'll even take out a lot of chemicals from your system to clean the system on the inside. It goes directly through the GI tract and comes out. Dr. Thrash, that's how it's done on the inside.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes, that's a very good thing. You know, another way that I have mixed it up, because as you say, it is a little difficult to get it to mix into solution. Sometimes I'll put it in a jar and with the water,
yes,
and just shake it like this, and it goes in a lot better. Then you can just put the, even without pouring it out. But I noticed how very carefully you transferred it from the little container into the glass, because that's most important for them to know, for people to know that. And you don't use your white suit when you're mixing it up the first time.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. Now, it's also used outside the body. Outside of the body, it's used in a poultice, and we're going to demonstrate that poultice a little bit later on, Dr. Thrash.
All right, very good. Well, I'd like to talk with you a bit more about some of the properties of charcoal. One is that it is inert inside the human body, and so you don't have to expect that it's going to do you some harm if you overdose. In fact, overdosing on charcoal is almost impossible. It does tend to make the bowels a little bit slow or sluggish. Some people feel that if they took too much, it would actually cause them to have a binding up of the bowel, but that really isn't true. If you drink enough water, it will pass through even though it may be a little sluggish. The reason for its being sluggish is that it attaches to the mucus in the bowel, and that makes it move more slowly through the bowel. But that isn't a great problem to you if you simply work with it with a lot of water, and sometimes an enema might also be necessary. Now, the slurry water that John Champion was talking with you about, when the black part falls down to the bottom, you could see that it was turning gray already up at the top part. It will eventually be almost clear, but there are some submicroscopic particles that are suspended in the water, and that does do some good for you as you take it and it is passed through the intestinal tract. When you take it internally, it acts sort of like a little mini dialysis, and it's not going to cause you a great problem. Now, as to how to get a child to take it, another suggestion, I really hope you don't have one of these on hand in your household, but if you should, have a chocolate container in your, I hope your children don't drink chocolate because it's not a good drink for them. It's too much sugar, it's too much of various things. But if you should have a chocolate container in your home, pour the charcoal water in there, put a straw in it, and invite your child to drink, and tell them, drink it fast. And as they follow your instructions, they'll get a lot of it down. Now, for a child, don't make up a large quantity like John Champion did for an adult dose. Just make up a small amount, but you still use a tablespoonful because chances are you're not going to get it all down for the child, so you want to make it fairly thick and have them drink it as quickly as you can. You can even mask mask it so that it's got a little flavor to it. It actually doesn't have any flavor. It just feels a little gritty in the mouth. So you can mask that a little bit by putting some kind of flavoring or maybe just a little bit of honey with it, but not very much. Because sometimes something that you might put with it might encourage absorption of some poison that the child might have taken. Now, so far as overdosing with charcoal, some people think that it's going to take up their nutrients if they use a lot of it, but actually, interestingly enough, and for reasons which we do not understand at all from the standpoint of physics and chemistry, the charcoal granule does not take up nutrients well at all. And therefore, a person who has been poisoned by, let's say, iron pills or vitamin pills or zinc pills, they can just about forget about charcoal. It's not going to be very helpful because it doesn't take up these nutrient substances. So it will not give you a long-term malnutrition if you take charcoal on a regular basis. One of the best ways that we use it is externally, and of course we could talk with you about charcoal stories and how we have used charcoal both inside the body and outside the body. We could talk with you the rest of the year on that and probably not adequately cover the subject. But now Don Miller is going to show you some of those things, some of the ways that we can use it externally.
One of the scary things that people worry about in their homes is the insects that they might have in their homes. And one insect that I discovered for the first time, saw it for myself, was in the sink when I was going to graduate school at the University of Oklahoma, is the brown recluse spider. Everyone's worried about that brown recluse spider, and they are pretty nasty. When they bite you, they cause necrotic tissue. It can go right down to the bone, and it seems it just does not heal. Well, we were on a tour one time, we're out in California, and a man came to our booth where we were displaying some of our materials, and he told us, I got bit by a brown recluse spider I think it was in January, and this was about June when he told us this. And I says, really? And he says, yes, and I kept a scrapbook about my bite. And he had this big scrapbook full of pictures. They didn't really identified as a brown recluse spider bite for about 3 weeks. So for 3 weeks there was no treatment at all. And by the time this 3 weeks had elapsed, he had ulcers all up and down his leg. It wasn't just the one, it seemed to have traveled through his bloodstream, and he had ulcers all up and down his leg. Well, they started using charcoal poultices, which Brother Champlin will tell you how to do. But they had applied not just a poultice on this one and a poultice on this one, they made entire leg poultices from his ankle to his hip. He had these large charcoal poultices, and every 2 or 3 days they took a picture of the leg. And I tell you what, the first few days and the first few weeks and the first couple of months, that leg looked like meat. It was a bad looking leg. These large ulcers and very angry looking and necrotic tissue going on down. But slowly they started healing over until finally the last few pictures, they looked, there were still some wounds there, but it wasn't that bad. Well, here it was. I think he took the pictures until June. This must have been July. He says, well, let me see your leg. And so right there in this booth area, all the people around, he hiked up his pant leg, and on his leg, he had a few little brown patches. No wounds, no necrotic tissue, no holes down to the bone, no amputations, just nice flesh with a little bit of discoloration, which would probably eventually go away too. Brown recluse spider, you don't use antibiotics. Cutting away the tissue is not the way we should do. Just take charcoal and pack it into the wound if you have to. If it tattoos your skin, doesn't really make a difference. I'd rather have tattooed skin than to have my skin cut away by a surgeon's knife because they can't figure out any other way to treat it. And so use God's simple ways, and I'm sure we'll get some real rewards from that. And that's, all right, I had the horse in this man's leg. There's all kinds of ways to use it.
Oh yes, and all sorts of situations to use it in too. And as we think about the many, many ways that charcoal can be used, I'd like us to study some things about how charcoal can be used in poultices or compresses in the body. Compresses represent one of our primary ways of treating the skin, and John Champion is going to show you now just how to make a poultice and how to apply it.
Thank you. We're going to be making a poultice here, and I'm going to have Melissa come over and so that I can apply this poultice to her after I make it. The great need in making a poultice is to have charcoal, and we have here a little flaxseed which can be ground up and added to the poultice, and as some have used, also oatmeal. This is a nice binder also, and allows for the moisture to remain in the compress. Simply we take, I'm going to use oatmeal today, 1 tablespoon of oatmeal and some charcoal, and they will be bound together, and we'll use a little water, and we'll make a compress here. All right, we add a little water to this. This will make a paste. As you see, it's very light, and it flies very easily. And this paste then will be put on a paper towel, which is pre-cut. The charcoal, activated charcoal with the binder here and the water will work through the paper towel, common kitchen paper towel. And here we have a little paste, which I'm going to apply now to the paper towel. We'll spread it out. We'd like to have it about 1/4 inch thick. And then over top of that, I will place another one. Melissa Thrash, Dr. Thrash's granddaughter, is my subject today. And on top of this, we're going to place a little piece of plastic to keep the moisture in. Secure it with a little tape. And then over top of this, we can put an ace bandage or to keep it bound. We're running out of time, so I'm just going to show you very quickly here. If, on the other hand, she had a little mosquito bite, not a mosquito bite, or a bee sting or a wasp, then a little Band-Aid can be used. Melissa was telling me about experiences she had where she had these little Band-Aids all over her, getting rid of a little problem that her sister had picked up and shared with her without her consent. And when this is taken off, this can stay on about 6 hours to 10 hours, and when that's taken off, it's simply wiped with a cool cloth, rubbed very clean, and then she is better. The problem that she had would probably be taken care of. Thank you, Melissa. Charcoal. Charcoal can be used in many different ways. One of our doctors at Uchee Pines, his little child was playing around a little hole in the ground and put a stick in the ground. And out of that hole came these yellow jackets, and in just a moment, the yellow jackets were in charge. Our doctor then took the child, placed the child in the bathtub and with water, and then put in 2 cups of charcoal water, stirring it around, and she received relief. Dr. Thrash, that was a simple way to do it, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, and it was very effective, but the interesting thing was that the doctor, who sort of got lost in all this work with the child, didn't get treatment, and he had a real big problem. We didn't treat him, but we did treat his daughter. Now, I hope that in these things that we have covered with charcoal, that you will be stimulated to try it. Be sure you have it in your home at all times. Don't wait until the emergency arises and then you have to run out and get the charcoal. At that time, valuable time will be lost, and you can be enjoying charcoal all this time if you have it on hand.